Captain Lee Daeho stared at the message on his screen. The words glowed bright red, which meant it was urgent. He read it 3 times before he understood what it said. The Velkari Empire had rejected Earth's request to join the Galactic Council. Again. This was the 47th time Earth had asked. This was the 47th time they said no. Lee sat in his small office aboard the Earth Defense Force station. Through his window he could see Earth's blue surface spinning slowly below. It looked peaceful and beautiful. But Lee knew that other alien races saw something different when they looked at his home planet. They saw weakness. The Velkari ruled the galaxy. Everyone knew this. Their ships were made of some kind of crystal that could destroy entire star systems. Their soldiers could move objects with their minds. They had controlled the galaxy for 10,000 years. No one argued with them. No one dared. Lee opened the message from Overlord Kethvaran, the Velkari leader who handled Earth's requests. The alien's words were cold and mean. The human species remains unfit for galactic society. Your people are barely evolved primates who play with chemical rockets. You have no useful technology. You have no psychic abilities. You offer nothing to the civilized galaxy. This request is denied. Do not contact us again for at least 1 standard year. Lee closed the message and rubbed his tired eyes. 47 rejections. Each one hurt more than the last. Earth's best scientists had worked for years to prove that humans deserved a place in the galaxy. But the aliens always found reasons to say no. Dr. Park Min-ae walked into Lee's office without knocking. She did this often when she was excited about her work. Park was Earth's best expert on alien biology. She studied how other species lived and thought. "Captain, I need to show you something," Park said. Her voice was worried. "I've been reading the Velkari messages we intercepted last month." Lee looked up at her. "What did you find?" Park sat down across from his desk. She held a data pad in her hands. "The Velkari have been doing experiments on human colonies. Secret experiments. They've been treating our people like lab animals." "What kind of experiments?" Lee asked. "They take small groups of humans and put them in different situations. Then they watch how the humans react. They want to understand how we think and behave. But Lee, they don't see us as intelligent beings. To them, we're just interesting animals." Lee felt anger rise in his chest. "How many colonies?" "At least 12 that I can prove. Maybe more." Park's voice was quiet. "They've been doing this for 5 years. The colonists don't even know it's happening." Before Lee could respond, his communication system beeped. A new message was coming in from deep space. Lee opened it and saw Commander Kim Tae-woo's face on the screen. Kim was the captain of Earth's most advanced starship, the Soul's Pride. He was somewhere near the edge of human space, doing patrol missions with alien ships. The joint exercises were supposed to show that humans could work with other species. "Captain Lee," Kim said from the screen, "I need to report something strange. We just finished training exercises with a Threnody battle group. Our ships perform better than theirs in every test." "That's good news," Lee said. Kim shook his head. "No, sir, it's not. The Threnody are supposed to be much more advanced than us. Their technology is hundreds of years ahead of ours. But our pilots flew circles around them. Our weapons hit targets they couldn't even see." "Maybe their equipment was broken," Park suggested. "That's what I thought too," Kim said. "But then I talked to the Threnody commander. He said the same thing happened when they trained with human ships last year, and the year before that. He called it reckless human unpredictability. But I don't think it was unpredictability. I think our people are just better at this." Lee frowned. "Better at what?" "Flying, fighting, thinking fast under pressure. The aliens follow their computer systems and stick to their training. But humans, as we adapt, we change our plans in the middle of battle. We take risks that work out somehow." After Kim's message ended, Lee sat quietly for a long time. Park was still reading through her intercepted alien communications. "There's something else," Park said. "The Velkari have been talking about something called a purification protocol. I don't know what it means yet, but they mention it a lot in their private messages. Before Lee could ask about this, his door opened again. Ambassador Choi Soo-jin walked in. She looked tired and upset. Choi spent most of her time trying to convince alien governments that humans deserved respect. "I just came back from the Galactic Council meeting," Choi said. "The Velkari made an announcement." "What kind of announcement?" Lee asked. Choi sat down heavily in a chair. "They're calling it the Purification Protocol. The Velkari say the galaxy has too many inferior species, taking up space and resources. They want to remove these species to make room for genetically superior races." Park looked up from her datapad. "Did they say which species they consider inferior?" "They didn't give specific names," Choi said. "But they made it clear that any species without advanced technology or psychic abilities would be evaluated for removal." Lee felt cold fear in his stomach. Humans had no psychic abilities. Earth's technology was considered primitive by galactic standards. If the Velkari were looking for inferior species to remove, humans would be at the top of their list. "How long do we have?" Lee asked. "The Velkari said they would begin evaluations in 6 months," Choi replied. "They're forming committees to study different species and decide which ones should be eliminated." Park was reading something new on her datapad. "Captain, I'm seeing references to these evaluations in the older Velkari messages. They've been planning this for years. The experiments on human colonies weren't just for curiosity. They were gathering data to decide if we should live or die." Lee stood up and walked to his window. Earth looked the same as always: blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. Millions of people down there going about their normal lives. They had no idea that the most powerful civilization in the galaxy was deciding whether humanity deserved to exist. "What are our options?" Lee asked. Choi shook her head. "Diplomatically? None. The other species are too afraid of the Velkari to oppose them. The Threnody Confederation and the Maxian Trade Union will do whatever the Velkari tell them to do." "What about military options?" Lee asked. "Earth has 12 starships," Kim's voice said from the communication system. He was still connected to their conversation. "The Velkari Empire has over 50,000. Their smallest ship could destroy our entire fleet." Lee looked at the 3 people who knew Earth's situation best. A scientist, a diplomat, and a military commander. All of them looked hopeless. "There has to be something we can do," Lee said. Park was still reading through alien messages. "Maybe there is. I keep seeing references to something the Velkari call dimensional signatures. They seem very interested in measuring these signatures from different species." "What does that mean?" Choi asked. "I don't know yet," Park admitted. "But they mention human dimensional signatures a lot, more than any other species, and the tone of their messages suggests they find our signatures unusual." Lee turned back to face the room. "Unusual how? I'm not sure. But in one message, a Velkari scientist writes that human dimensional signatures don't match standard biological patterns. Another message says that humans show impossible quantum coherence in their brain activity." Kim spoke from the screen. "Could this be why human pilots perform better than expected?" "Maybe," Park said. "I need more time to study this, but I think the Velkari know something about humans that we don't know about ourselves." Lee made a decision. "Dr. Park, make this your top priority. Find out what the Velkari know about human dimensional signatures. Commander Kim, return to Earth immediately. We need all our ships ready for anything. Ambassador Choi, keep attending the Galactic Council meetings, but don't let them know what we're investigating." As his team prepared to leave, Lee looked out at Earth one more time. The planet that the galaxy considered weak and primitive. The home of a species that everyone thought was barely evolved. But if humans were so weak and primitive, why were the Velkari so interested in their dimensional signatures? And why could human pilots outfly alien ships that were supposed to be far superior? Lee had a feeling that humanity was about to learn something important about itself. He just hoped they would learn it in time to survive what was coming. Senior analyst Yoon Jae-hyun was drinking his third cup of coffee. when every alarm in the deep space monitoring station started screaming at once. Red lights flashed across his control panels. Warning messages filled his screens faster than he could read them. Yoon had worked at the monitoring station for 8 years. He had seen equipment failures, solar storms, and even a few asteroid impacts, but he had never seen all the systems go crazy like this. "What's happening?" shouted his supervisor running across the control room. Yoon stared at his main display. The screen showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of dots representing star systems. Right in the center, where the Velkari home system should be, there was nothing. Just empty black space. "Sir, I think our sensors are broken," Yoon said. "The entire Velkari system is showing up as empty space." His supervisor leaned over Yoon's shoulder and looked at the display. "Run a full diagnostic on all sensors." Yoon's fingers flew across his keyboard. He ran every test he could think of. All the equipment showed normal operation. No malfunctions. No errors. According to every sensor Earth had, the Velkari home system had simply vanished. "Sir, the diagnostics show everything is working perfectly," Yoon reported. "That's impossible. Run them again." Before Yoon could start the tests again, his communication system activated. Messages were pouring in from monitoring stations across human space. All of them reported the same thing. The Velkari home system was gone. Admiral Song Kyung-soo arrived at the monitoring station 2 hours later. He brought a team of Earth's best scientists and engineers. They spent 6 hours running tests and checking data. The conclusion was always the same. 7 planets, 3 artificial ring worlds, 2 space stations the size of moons, and over 50 billion Velkari had disappeared without any trace. "How is this possible?" Admiral Song asked Dr. Park Min-ae, who had joined the investigation team. "I don't know," Park admitted. "There's no known technology that could make an entire star system disappear. Even the star is gone. That's not just advanced technology, that's impossible." Captain Lee Dae-ho stood next to a large display showing the galaxy map. Where the bright dot of the Velkari system should have been, there was only darkness. "What? About the other alien races?" Lee asked. "What are they saying?" Communications Officer Lim So-young was monitoring alien frequencies from her workstation. "Sir, they're in complete panic. The Threnody Confederation has declared a galaxy-wide emergency. The Maxian Trade Union has shut down all their borders. Smaller civilizations are fleeing toward the outer rim of the galaxy." Admiral Song rubbed his forehead. "Have any of them contacted us?" "No, sir. They're all too busy with their own crisis response." Dr. Park was studying readings from Earth's most sensitive instruments. "Admiral, I'm detecting very strange particles in the space where the Velkari system used to be." "What kind of particles?" "I don't know. They're not in any of our science books. The computer can't identify them. But they're there, floating in empty space where 50 billion people lived yesterday." Lee walked over to Park's workstation. "Could these particles tell us what happened?" "Maybe. But we'd need to get much closer to study them properly." Admiral Song made a decision. "Dr. Park, take a research team to the former Velkari system. Use the Busan Navigator, it's our fastest research ship." "Sir, is that safe?" asked Commander Kim Tae-woo, who had just returned from patrol duty. "Probably not," Admiral Song admitted. "But we need to know what happened. If something can make the most powerful civilization in the galaxy disappear overnight, we need to understand it." 3 days later, Dr. Park stood on the bridge of the research ship Busan Navigator. Captain Bae Ji-hoon was piloting the ship toward what used to be the Velkari home system. "How long until we arrive?" Park asked. 6 hours at maximum speed," Captain Bae replied. "Dr. Park, what do you think we're going to find?" "I honestly don't know. This is beyond anything in human science." As they got closer to their destination, the ship's sensors began picking up more details. The strange particles were everywhere, floating in complex patterns through empty space. "Captain, look at this," said Science Officer Oh Seon-ho. "The particles aren't random. They're arranged in structures like they're trying to form something." Park looked at the sensor readings. Oh was right. The particles were organized in patterns that looked almost like buildings or ships. But they were so small and scattered that she could barely make them out. "Take us closer," Park ordered. As the Busan navigator moved deeper into the empty system, more details became clear. The strange particles were definitely not natural. They were arranged in perfect geometric shapes. Some clusters looked like cities. Others looked like spaceships. Dr. Park, O said quietly, I think these particles used to be the Velkari system. Something broke down all the matter in the system into these tiny pieces. Before Park could respond, the ship's communication system activated. A weak signal was coming from somewhere in the particle field. This is impossible, Captain Bay said. There's nothing out here that could send a signal. Park moved to the communication station. Can you clean up the signal? The communications officer worked for several minutes. Slowly, a voice became clear. It was speaking in the Velkari language. Emergency transmission. Velkari Science Station 7. Something is wrong with reality itself. The humans. They're not what they appear to be. Scanning shows impossible quantum signature. The voice was full of fear and confusion. Dimensional fold detected. This is not natural evolution. Humans show multi-dimensional characteristics. Warning all stations. The humans are. The transmission cut off suddenly. Park felt cold fear run down her spine. Play that again. The team listened to the message 3 more times. Each time the implications became more frightening. They were talking about us, O said. Right before they disappeared, the Velkari were studying humans. Captain Bay turned in his chair. Dr. Park, what did they mean by multi-dimensional characteristics? I don't know. But whatever they found out about us, it scared them badly. Back on Earth, the situation was getting worse by the hour. With the Velkari Empire gone, ancient conflicts between other alien races were starting again. Commander Kim Tae-woo was monitoring the military situation from his ship, the Soul's Pride. Captain Lee, we're receiving reports of fighting in at Yaisao, least 6-star systems. The Zephyrian Collective and the Mordak Empire are both claiming to be the new rulers of the galaxy. What about the species closer to Earth? Lee asked. The Threnodi are mobilizing their entire fleet. They're scared and angry. When species get scared and angry, they usually look for someone to blame. Ambassador Choi Soo-jin was trying to contact alien governments, but most of them were not responding to messages from Earth. The few that did respond were suspicious and hostile. They think we had something to do with the Velkari disappearance, Choi reported to Admiral Song. Some of them are saying that humans must have secret weapons. That's crazy, Admiral Song said. We have 12 ships. The Velkari had 50,000. Logic doesn't matter when people are scared, Choi replied. At the Deep Space Monitoring Station, Yoon Jae-hyun was tracking ship movements throughout the galaxy. What he saw worried him. Sir, multiple alien fleets are moving toward human space, he reported to Admiral Song. The Threnodi have dispatched 300 ships. The Maxians have sent their entire border patrol. Even smaller civilizations are sending ships our way. Are they planning to attack us? Admiral Song asked. I don't think so. Their formations are defensive, not offensive, but they're definitely coming here for a reason. Dr. Park's voice came through the communication system from the Busan navigator. Admiral, we found something important in the particle field. We discovered the remains of a Velkari research station. The computer records are mostly destroyed, but we recovered some data. What kind of data? Research files about dimensional physics. The Velkari were studying something they called native dimensional beings. According to their notes, these beings exist naturally in multiple dimensions at the same time. Admiral Song frowned. What does that have to do with humans? The final research log mentions that they found a species matching the profile of native dimensional beings, a species that appeared normal but showed impossible quantum signatures in their brain patterns. The communication room fell silent. They were studying us, Admiral Song said quietly. Yes, sir. And according to the timestamp on the final log, they made their discovery just hours before the entire Velkari system disappeared. Captain Lee looked around the room at Earth's military and scientific leaders. Are you saying that studying humans somehow caused the Velkari to vanish? I don't know what I'm saying yet, Park replied from her ship. But the evidence suggests that learning the truth about human dimensional characteristics triggered something Catastrophic. Admiral Song walked to the window overlooking Earth. The planet looked peaceful and normal. But somewhere in the galaxy, alien fleets were moving toward human space. They were coming not to destroy Earth, but to contain it. Dr. Park returned to Earth immediately. Admiral Song ordered, "We need to understand what the Velkari discovered about us before other alien races figure it out too." As communications ended, Admiral Song continued staring at Earth, the planet that everyone considered weak and primitive, the home of ASE. Pilot Shin Hye-jin was losing the fight, and she knew it. 3 Threnody fighters were chasing her small patrol craft through the asteroid field near Mars. Their weapons were more powerful than hers. Their ships were faster. By all logic, she should already be dead. But Shin was not thinking about logic. She was thinking about survival. The lead Threnody fighter fired a plasma burst that should have destroyed her ship. Instead, something impossible happened. Shin's fighter seemed to fade for a moment, becoming translucent like a ghost. The plasma blast passed right through her ship without causing any damage. Shin stared at her control panel in shock. According to all her instruments, her ship had briefly stopped existing in normal space-time. What just happened? She whispered to herself. The Threnody pilots were just as confused. Their targeting systems had lost lock on Shin's ship for several seconds. On their screens, her fighter had simply vanished and then reappeared in a completely different position. Shin realized she was now behind all 3 enemy fighters instead of in front of them. Without thinking, she fired her weapons. All 3 Threnody ships were destroyed before they could react to her new position. Back on Earth, Dr. No Sang-wook was studying readings from the battle. As Earth's top quantum physicist, he had been monitoring human brain activity during combat situations. What he saw on his instruments made no sense. "This is impossible," he said to his research assistant. Pilot Shin's brain activity spiked to levels that should have killed her. But instead of dying, her quantum signature briefly matched patterns we've only seen in theoretical mathematics. His assistant looked at the data. What kind of patterns? Multidimensional consciousness. According to this data, for about 3 seconds, Pilot Shin's mind was processing information from at least 7 different dimensions simultaneously. Dr. No had been studying human brain patterns for months, ever since Dr. Park had discovered the Velkari research files. What he found was disturbing and amazing at the same time. Human DNA contained information that existed in higher dimensions. When humans experienced extreme stress or danger, their brains could access this higher dimensional information. The result was abilities that seemed impossible: enhanced reaction times, perfect situational awareness, intuitive understanding of complex problems, and now, apparently, the ability to briefly phase out of normal reality. Admiral Song was studying reports from other human pilots who had fought alien ships in recent weeks. The stories were all similar. Human pilots were performing feats that their training and equipment should not allow. "Commander Kim," Admiral Song said, "your report mentions that Lieutenant Park Tae-hyun managed to hit a target that was behind him without turning his ship around. How is that possible?" Commander Kim Tae-woo looked uncomfortable. "Sir, I saw it happen, but I can't explain it. According to the sensor logs, his weapons fired in one direction, while his targeting system was locked onto something in the opposite direction." And Ensign Lee Subin? She flew her fighter through the hull of an enemy ship. The alien ship's sensors show that she passed through solid metal without damaging either her ship or theirs. Both vessels were intact after the incident. Admiral Song rubbed his forehead. "These reports sound like fantasy stories." "Yes, sir, but they're all documented by multiple sensors and witnesses." Dr. Park Min-ae entered the meeting room with a stack of files. She had been working with Dr. No to analyze human performance data from across the fleet. "Admiral, we've identified a pattern," Park said. "Human abilities increase in direct proportion to the level of threat they face. The more dangerous the situation, the more impossible their performance becomes." "Are you saying that humans become more powerful when they're in danger?" "That's exactly what I'm saying. And there's something else. We've been studying ancient human history, looking for similar patterns." Park opened one of her files. Every major human achievement throughout history involved moments where people accomplished the impossible. Military victories against overwhelming odds. Scientific breakthroughs that should have taken decades, athletic records that exceeded known human limitations. You think these were examples of the same dimensional abilities we're seeing now? Yes, but in the past, these abilities only manifested for brief moments during extreme situations. Now, they're becoming more frequent and more powerful. Dr. No joined the conversation. We think the stress of the current galactic situation is activating dormant capabilities in human consciousness. The more threatened humanity becomes, the more these abilities emerge. Admiral Song looked out the window at the alien fleets surrounding Earth. Then we're about to become very threatened indeed. At that moment, researcher Kang Yuna burst into the room. She had been studying ancient ruins that human archaeologists had discovered over the past century. Admiral, I found something incredible in the ruins on Kepler 442b, Kang said, breathing heavily. The site we thought was built by an unknown alien species. It wasn't built by aliens. What do you mean? Kang spread photos across the conference table. The architectural patterns match human design principles perfectly. The mathematical relationships carved into the walls are based on human understanding of physics. Even the decorative elements show human artistic sensibilities. Admiral, Song looked at the photos. Are you saying humans built these ruins? Not humans as we know them today, but beings that were essentially human. The ruins are over 2 million years old. They exist on 17 different planets throughout the galaxy. Dr. Park studied the photos. This matches what we found in the Valkyrie research files. They mentioned finding similar dimensional signatures in ancient ruins. Kang continued her report. But here's the most important part. I found records carved into the ruins. They tell the story of an ancient war between humanity and something called the Devourers. What are Devourers? According to the carvings, they are beings of pure entropy. They consume the quantum foundation of reality itself. The ancient humans fought a war against them that lasted for thousands of years. Admiral Song felt cold fear growing in his chest. Who won this war? Nobody, Kang replied. The ancient humans couldn't destroy the Devourers, and the Devourers couldn't completely eliminate humanity. So the humans made a desperate decision. They used their dimensional abilities to seal the Devourers in a higher dimension, where they couldn't reach normal space-time. What happened to the ancient humans? They sacrificed themselves to power the seal. Only their children survived, transported to a lower dimension where they would be safe. A dimension where their memories and abilities were locked away. The room fell completely silent as the implications became clear. You're saying that modern humans are the descendants of these ancient refugees, Admiral Song said slowly. Yes. We're the children of beings who once controlled multiple dimensions and fought a war against entities that devour reality itself. Dr. No was reading through Kang's research data. This explains everything. Why human dimensional signatures are different from other species. Why our abilities activate under stress. Why studying us caused the Valkyrie to vanish. What do you mean about the Valkyrie? When the Valkyrie tried to understand human dimensional characteristics, they accidentally accessed the higher dimension where the Devourers are sealed. The entire Valkyrie system was pulled into that dimension. Captain Lee Daeho had been listening to the conversation from his ship. His voice came through the communication system. Dr. No, are you saying the Valkyrie are still alive? They might be. But they're trapped in a dimension where time moves differently. What seems like months to us could be thousands of years for them. Admiral Song stood up and walked to the window. The alien fleets were still maintaining their defensive positions around Earth. So the galaxy is afraid of us because they think we might accidentally destroy reality, he said. Not accidentally, Kang corrected. The ancient records suggest that human dimensional abilities are primarily defensive. They activate to protect humanity from existential threats. Like alien fleets trying to contain us? Exactly. The more threatened modern humans become, the more our ancient defensive systems activate. Dr. Park was connecting pieces of information in her mind. That means the alien fleets around Earth are creating exactly the situation that will awaken humanity's full capabilities. Admiral Song turned back to face the room. And if our full capabilities are anything like what the ancient humans possessed, The aliens have good reason to be afraid. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the alien ships continued their watch. They had come to contain a species they thought was dangerous. Instead, they were triggering the awakening of abilities that had once fought beings who devoured realities. Humanity was starting to remember what it really was. And across the galaxy, ancient seals that had held for millions of years were beginning to weaken. The devourers were stirring in their higher dimensional prison, sensing that their ancient enemy was finally awakening. President Moon Ji-won stood before the largest gathering in human history. Representatives from every nation on Earth filled the great assembly hall in Seoul. But more importantly, the transmission was being broadcast to every alien fleet surrounding Earth. For the first time, humanity was going to tell the galaxy the truth about what they really were. People of Earth and beings of the galaxy, President Moon began, her voice calm but strong. Today, we share knowledge that will change how everyone understands humanity's place in the universe. In the audience, Captain Lee Dae-ho sat with other military leaders. Dr. Park Min-ae was with the scientific team. Admiral Song was monitoring reactions from the alien fleets. Everyone knew this moment would determine whether humanity survived or faced destruction. For months, we have been studying evidence that seemed impossible, President Moon continued. Evidence that humans are not what we appear to be. Today, we can prove that humanity is the descendant of an ancient civilization that once protected this galaxy from beings that devour reality itself. On the bridge of his flagship, Threnody War Chief Vexthon listened to the human transmission with growing alarm. This is exactly what the legends warned about, he told his officers. The quiet ones always claimed to be protectors before they consumed entire star systems. But before Vexthon could order an attack, something extraordinary happened. Commander Kim Tae-woo was piloting his ship, the Soul's Pride, on patrol around Earth when he felt something change inside his mind. It was like a door opening in his consciousness, revealing rooms he never knew existed. Suddenly, Kim could see in dimensions beyond normal space-time. He could perceive the quantum structure of reality itself, and he could control it. The Soul's Pride began to flicker in and out of normal space. One moment it was visible to alien sensors. The next moment it existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. "This is impossible," whispered the sensor officer on Vexthon's flagship. "The human ship is occupying multiple realities at the same time." Kim was not trying to show off. He was responding to what his expanded consciousness told him was necessary. He reached across dimensions and gently retrieved something that had been lost. The entire Valkyrie home system materialized in space near Earth. 7 planets, 3 ring worlds, space stations, and 50 billion confused Valkyrie suddenly found themselves back in normal spacetime. Overlord Kethvaran appeared on communication screens throughout the galaxy. The proud Valkyrie leader looked humbled and frightened. "This is Overlord Kethvaran of the Valkyrie Empire," he broadcast. "I am speaking to confirm what the humans have told you. We have spent thousands of years in a higher dimension, trapped by our own attempts to study human dimensional characteristics." "How long were you trapped?" asked Admiral Song. "For us, it was over 3,000 years. We experienced the rise and fall of civilizations while only months passed in your reality. And we were not alone in that dimension." Kethvaran's image showed fear that few had ever seen in a Valkyrie. "The higher dimension is controlled by entities of pure entropy, beings that the ancient humans called devourers. They consume the quantum foundation of reality itself." President Moon continued her address to the galaxy. The ancient human civilization did not lose their war against the devourers. They sacrificed themselves to seal these entities away from normal space-time. Modern humans are their children, placed in this dimension with locked memories to keep us safe. Dr. Park Min-ae stepped forward to provide scientific evidence. "Our research proves that human emotional responses, creative thinking, and adaptability are not weaknesses. They are dimensional anchoring mechanisms. They keep us stable across multiple realities while allowing us to access higher dimensional capabilities when needed." On his ship, Commander Kim was discovering the extent of his new abilities. He could see the quantum threads that connected all matter in the galaxy. He could feel the boundaries between dimensions, and he could sense something troubling. "Admiral Song," Kim reported, "the ancient seals are weakening. The Devourers are trying to break through into normal spacetime. How long do we have?" Kim's consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions, assessing the situation. "Not long. The stress of the current galactic crisis has activated too many human abilities too quickly. The dimensional barriers are becoming unstable." Dr. No Sang-wook had been monitoring Kim's readings from his laboratory on Earth. "Commander Kim is right. Every time a human manifests dimensional abilities, it creates small tears in the barriers between realities." Admiral Song realized they were facing an impossible situation. "So if humans use our abilities, we risk letting the Devourers escape. But if we don't use our abilities, the alien fleets will destroy us out of fear." President Moon addressed this directly in her speech. "To the galaxy, we understand your fear. The return of humanity's ancient capabilities is dangerous. But we offer a different solution than containment or destruction." She gestured to Captain Lee Dae-ho, who stood and activated a holographic display showing, "The galaxy. Humanity will not hide our abilities or pretend to be something we're not," Lee announced. "Instead, we will do what our ancestors did. We will protect the galaxy from threats that normal civilizations cannot face." War Chief Vexthon was still skeptical. "How do we know you will not turn these abilities against us?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Park had been studying the psychological effects of dimensional abilities on human subjects. "Our research shows that accessing higher dimensional consciousness actually increases empathy and understanding. Humans with active abilities become more protective of other life forms, not less. This was proven when engineer Oh Seon-ho, working on Earth's experimental FTL drive, suddenly gained the ability to perceive alien thoughts and emotions. Instead of using this power to spy on enemy plans, he used it to help injured Threnody pilots who had crashed during training exercises. The human engineer saved our people when he could have let them die," Vexathon's medical officer reported. "He used his abilities to stabilize their life support systems." Similar reports came from across human space. As more humans awakened to their dimensional capabilities, they consistently used these powers to help, rather than harm other species. Commander Kim demonstrated this on a larger scale. Using his expanded consciousness, he began teaching other species basic dimensional techniques that would help them defend against interdimensional threats. "Most aliens cannot access these abilities on their own," Kim explained to the gathered fleet commanders. "But humans can serve as guides, helping other species learn to perceive and defend against dimensional dangers." Trademaster Zulbeck of EOA. The Maxian Union was the first to accept this offer. "If humans can teach our pilots to detect dimensional anomalies, our ships will be much safer during FTL travel." Dr. Park worked with alien scientists to develop new technologies based on human dimensional understanding. These devices could detect tears in reality, stabilize quantum fluctuations, and even repair damage to spacetime itself. General Han Seok-jin restructured Earth's military to include alien species in joint training programs. Human officers taught dimensional awareness techniques while learning advanced alien technologies in return. The transformation of galactic politics was swift but careful. Ambassador Choi Soo-jin worked with alien governments to establish the new Galactic Compact. Instead of the old hierarchy based on military power, the new system was based on mutual protection and cooperation. Earth did not become the new galactic empire. Instead, it became the galaxy's guardian. Human ships spread throughout space not as conquerors, but as protectors watching for signs of dimensional instability. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood on the bridge of humanity's first interdimensional dreadnought, a ship that existed in multiple realities simultaneously. His crew included humans, Threnody, Maxians, and even grateful Velkari, who had learned to respect humanity's true nature. Through the ship's viewing portal, Lee could see the galaxy as his ancient ancestors had seen it, not as separate star systems, competing for resources, but as a single interconnected web of life that deserved protection. "Captain," reported his dimensional sensor officer, a young human named Yoon Hae-jin. I'm detecting minor quantum fluctuations in the Andromedy sector. It might be natural, but we should investigate. Set course for Andromedy, Lee ordered. Full dimensional alert status. As the ship folded space-time around itself and departed for its mission, Lee reflected on how much had changed. The galaxy, that once dismissed Earth as weak, now looked to humanity for protection against threats beyond normal understanding. The ancient devourers remained sealed in their higher dimensional prison, but their influence could still be felt. Reality itself required constant maintenance and protection. It was work that only beings with humanity's unique combination of emotional intelligence and dimensional abilities could perform. Humanity had found its true purpose in the galaxy, not as conquerors or rulers, but as guardians of the quantum foundations that allowed all life to exist. The species that was once considered the weakest in the galaxy had become its most essential protector. Dae-ho Kim wiped the sweat from his forehead as he walked through the small farm. The corn was growing well this year. After 50 years of hard work, the land was finally healing from the old wars. The radiation levels were down. People could grow food again without fear. He stopped to check the water pumps. Everything looked good. His small community of 200 people had learned to live simply. They grew their own food, fixed their own machines, and helped each other survive. Life was hard but peaceful. The children were playing near the school building. Their laughter filled the air. Dae-ho smiled. These kids had never known the terror of the old nuclear war. They only knew this quiet life of farming and learning. "Commander Kim," a voice called out. Dae-ho turned to see Soo-jin running toward him. She was one of the younger farmers, but she had good eyes for watching the sky. "There's something up there." Dae-ho looked up. The sky was clear and blue, just like always. Then he saw it. A tiny dot, growing larger. Then another dot. Then, many more dots. "Ring the bell," Dae-ho said quietly. "Get everyone to the center." Soo-jin ran to ring the warning bell. People came out of their houses and fields. They had practiced this many times. If strangers came, everyone would meet in the town center. The dots in the sky grew bigger. They were ships. Huge ships. Bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ships were silver and smooth, with strange lights running along their sides. Dr. Yuna Park came running from her small lab. She had been a scientist before the war, and she still studied plants and animals. "Dae-ho, those aren't human ships," she said, breathing hard. "The design is completely different." "I know," Dae-ho replied. He had been a soldier once before he became a farmer. He knew the shape of every aircraft humans had ever made. These were something else. The first ship landed in the big field next to the town. It was massive, easily 3 times longer than their entire village. The ground shook when it touched down. Strange symbols glowed on its hull. A door opened in the side of the ship. Bright light poured out. Then figures stepped into the sunlight. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but they were taller and thinner. Their skin was gray-blue and they had 4 arms instead of 2. They wore white suits that seemed to glow. One of the aliens stepped forward. When it spoke, the words came from a small device on its chest. The words were in Korean, but the voice sounded strange and flat. "Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Admiral Thexvara of the Villani Consortium. We come seeking your assistance in a matter of great importance." Dae-ho walked forward slowly. His hands were empty, but he kept them visible. "I'm Dae-ho Kim, leader of this community. What kind of assistance?" "Your species has been selected for military service. Our civilization is under attack by machines that seek to destroy all life. We have studied many species across the galaxy. Humans possess unique abilities that can help us win this war." Dr. Yuna Park stepped up beside Dae-ho. "Selected? What do you mean selected? We didn't volunteer for anything." The alien admiral turned its large black eyes toward her. "Dr. Park, we have been observing your world for many cycles. Your species shows remarkable adaptability and psychological resilience. Most importantly, You display unpredictable behavior patterns that our enemies cannot analyze. Our enemies? Deho asked. We don't know anything about your enemies. We just want to farm our land and live in peace. Peace is not an option, Admiral Thexvara replied. The mechanical hegemony expands across the galaxy, converting all matter into more war machines. They have destroyed 6 star systems already. If they are not stopped, all life will end. More aliens came out of the ship. Some looked different from the first ones. These had fur and walked on 4 legs but stood upright. Others had scales and moved like giant snakes. Dr. Una Park stared at them with wonder, but Deho felt only worry. Why us, he asked. There must be other species who are better fighters. We have tried traditional warfare for 3 years, the Admiral explained. Our weapons and tactics follow logical patterns. The machines learn these patterns and adapt. They become stronger with each battle. But humans do not follow logical patterns. A new voice spoke from behind them. Daddy, what's happening? Deho turned to see his daughter Ha-Yun walking toward them. She was 15 years old, and curious about everything. Behind her came more villagers, including families with small children. The alien admiral looked at Ha-Yun with interest. Excellent, we require genetic diversity for the breeding program. Breeding program? Dr. Una Park stepped forward angrily. What are you talking about? Human psychology is partially genetic, Admiral Thexvara explained. To ensure the continued effectiveness of human soldiers, we must preserve your genetic lines. Families will be separated across different ships to prevent loss of genetic diversity. Deho felt cold anger rising in his chest. You want to take our children? We want to save your species, the Admiral replied, and all other species in the galaxy. This is not a request. This is a necessity. More ships were landing around the village. Alien soldiers came out carrying strange weapons. They didn't point the weapons at the humans, but the message was clear. Lieutenant Jinwoo Lee pushed through the crowd. He had been Deho's second-in-command during their military days. How many humans do you need? All of them, Admiral Thexvara said simply. Every human on your planet will join the war effort. Some as soldiers, some as support staff, some as genetic stock for future generations. And if we refuse? Deho asked. The Admiral was quiet for a moment. Then it said, Your planet is dying anyway. The radiation damage cannot be fully repaired. We offer your species a chance to survive among the stars. The alternative is slow extinction on a poisoned world. Dr. Una Park whispered to Deho. They've been watching us for a long time. They know exactly how desperate we are. Deho looked around at his people. The children were scared. The adults were angry and frightened. This small community was all they had left of the human race. Everything else had been destroyed in the old wars. You're not asking us to help, he said to the Admiral. You're forcing us. Yes, Admiral Thexvara replied. Because your species will not volunteer for something this dangerous. Humans only fight with true effectiveness when they have no other choice. The alien soldiers began moving toward the crowd. Their weapons hummed with energy. More ships landed in other parts of the valley. Deho could see lights in the distance, where other communities lived. The aliens were taking everyone. Load civilians first, the Admiral ordered. Families with children have priority for the genetic preservation ships. No! Jinwoo shouted. He ran toward his wife So-min and daughter Ha-Yun, but alien soldiers blocked his way. Their weapons glowed brighter. Resistance will result in injury, Admiral Thexvara announced. Cooperation will ensure gentler treatment. Deho watched as his people were separated into groups. Children and young adults went to one ship, older adults went to another. The aliens used scanners to check each person's health and genetics. Dr. Una Park was pulled aside by alien scientists. They seemed very interested in her knowledge of biology. She looked back at Deho with fear in her eyes. Where are you taking us? Deho demanded. To war, Admiral Thexvara replied. To save a galaxy that includes your new home among the stars. As the ships filled with humans, Deho realized the terrible truth. The aliens hadn't come to ask for help. They had come to harvest humanity like a crop. The peaceful farming life was over. Now they would all learn to fight in a war they never chose, against enemies they had never seen, for people who saw them only as weapons. The ship's door closed behind him with a sound like thunder.